First of all, it's September. It's fall. At least technically it's fall. The temperature seems to be dropping a bit here in Texas. That's good. But I'm just excited because the time of the year, this is when people really start buckling down and looking at their business again. Summer's over, kids are back in school. This is a great season for this industry. And so what I wanted to do tonight is just share some perspective on BioRes. I've been in this industry for a long time, and about every 25 years, something comes along that is so unique, so efficacious, so disruptive to everything else that if you're on the front end of it and you have the opportunity to get the exclusive rights, changes everything. And I've been through that with Ace Manning. It was discovered in the late 80s and early 90s. I licensed the exclusive rights, and nobody in the world had ever heard of it. So there was an educational process. People had to start figuring out, how do you optimize your immune system? What does this do? But there was such good science behind it. And of course, the results were phenomenal. But, it took a while to figure out how to use it appropriately and what the expectations were, because we live in a drug paradigm. And a drug paradigm says you take something and 5 minutes later you feel it because it's altering some physiological function. And that's not the way the body works at all. That's not the way nutrition works. And if it does work that way, it's typically, just by chance. But BioRes is one of those technologies that has come along just at the right time for our company. As we're starting to look at expanding worldwide and, taking our company around the globe, we already have the best integrative health support technologies between the patented purified beta lanes and of course, our unique and proprietary Ace Manning technology and some of the other support technologies that we've developed that are just state of the art. But this came out of left field to me because, I grew up in the nutrition industry looking at nutrition as building blocks that the body uses to make healthy new tissues, new cells. And the better you can get at supplying that, the better, the health equation was. And what I never really understand is the equation of energy. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So let's get right into it. First slide is BioRes Energy Management System. And what's kind of interesting about that is that, these three products have been positioned in our metabolic lifestyle kit, for managing weight more effectively. And so people go, wait a minute, I thought this was a weight management system. Well, it's weight management through energy distribution. And we're going to talk about energy and the importance of that. And then you'll see why efficient fat burning takes place, why a lot of different metabolic processes will be dramatically changed and enhanced as a result of these three products. But they do address the number one comorbidity in the world today, which is being overweight or obese. So let's talk about energy. Next slide, please. Albert Einstein said, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Period. Okay, so I guess that's a good way to start this conversation about energy. Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. I mean, what he said is exactly true. Next. And of course, Nikola Tesla, we're familiar with Tesla, cars, and but man, what an innovator this guy was. And he said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So, these incredible scholars of the past, are you starting to see a pattern there? Next. And then back to Einstein, he said, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. And that is absolutely critical for what we're going to talk about tonight. So as you can see, these guys were all about, how the body functions as a result of energy distribution. But I think what's interesting is the body has to have energy for proper structure and function, but it can't make it. I mean, I just find that fascinating. That's the design of life. So where does everybody get their energy from? Next. Well, the design of life is all energy comes from the sun. Regardless if you're an animal, a human, a reptile, or whatever, everything needs energy. It all comes from the sun. Plants have a unique capability of capturing that energy through a process called photosynthesis. And so it locks that energy into its cells, and then we eat those plants, and guess what happens? We get energy that is necessary for all of our life processes. Next. A lot of that energy for metabolism is focused and sent through what is called the autonomic nervous system. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's the master regulator of metabolism and health. So if we're going to talk about influencing metabolic processes, which includes the efficient burning of fat, by the way, regulating blood sugars and a lot of other things in metabolism, it all basically comes through the autonomic nervous system. Next. If you're not real familiar with it, the autonomic nervous system has two divisions, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. And the brain directs energy to specific functions of all your glands and organs through the autonomic nervous system. So this is what triggers every response in metabolism. So there is what is called left brain activity, which is the sympathetic division. That's the fight or flight. And so when the body senses any kind of danger, energy is shifted in the brain to support all those fight or flight responses. And as soon as it's abated, boom, it's back to the parasympathetic division, which is the rest, repair, regeneration, digestion, all the things that continually rebuild healthy cells, tissues, and your overall quality of life. Next. So stress shifts energy distribution. And it really doesn't matter what kind of stress it is. It can be poor nutrition, which puts the stress. It can be toxins. There's 100,000 chemicals in our food supply that weren't there 50 years ago. It doesn't even have to be a toxic chemical, just has to be a foreign chemical that the body can't use. Emotional or physical overload, that's a stress. Any kind of perceived threat, the brain directs energy towards those fight or flight responses. And again, once it's been abated, boom, it comes back to the parasympathetic, which is the body's rest, repair, regenerative functions. Next. Here's the challenge in the 21st century, and that is when our bodies are under relentless stress, because that's the world that we live in. We wake up in a hurry. Everything is hurry, hurry, hurry. We've got cell phones, that trigger responses all day long. We've got poor nutrition. We're overloaded with all kinds of stress. So when we're in a relentless stress environment, our brains can actually shift into a closed loop fight or flight responses. That's just devastating. As you can see, there's the hand sticking up, help, because that's the way that we feel through life today. Now, what that does is that robs the rest, repair, regeneration, digestion functions of their necessary energy requirements. Next. And this is where poor health comes from, or a lack of health. It's a pretty easy equation. Lack of energy equals lack of function. If you don't supply the energy, the function gets altered. Lack of function equals symptom manifestation. All of a sudden, symptoms start showing up. It could be poor sleep. It could be excessive weight gain. It could be your complexion. It could be digestive problems. It could be a lot of things. And symptoms are just simply warning signs of degenerating processes that are going on in the body that lead to poor health. So it all goes back to lack of energy, lack of function, symptom development. Unchecked symptoms lead to poor health. Next. That's why I think Einstein, and this is the last quote I'll have from him, but man, what a brilliant guy, right? He said, future medicine will be the medicine of frequencies. I mean, Einstein and Tesla understood this, that everything is energy. And we treat a lot of this, we treat the symptoms of poor health with chemicals. In other words, we're always trying to alter physiology instead of going to the root cause, which is a lack of energy. And I think that's why Einstein said, somebody's going to wake up out of the ether one day and figure out that, you know what? If you will provide the human body with the energy that is required to support all of its functions appropriately, the body can do what medicine cannot do, and that's heal itself. Fascinating stuff. So I pulled this article out of the New York Times, and this is a little bit dated. It's a little over 10 years ago, but I just love the quotes. And by the way, a lot of this research is updating all the time. In fact, I looked at some of it today. But this was an article entitled, Can the Nervous System Be Hacked? Because, Einstein said the future of medicine, and I'm here to tell you the future is now. This is what's going on around us, guys. Conceptually, this is a hacking the nervous system. It's called bioelectrics. It's exactly what Einstein talked about. And this article, first of all, said conceptually bioelectric is straightforward. Get the nervous system to tell the body to heal itself. I mean, just on the surface, how incredible is that? I mean, when you consider the enormity of modern healthcare, it all boils down to this. Get the nervous system to tell the body to heal itself. Man, that is what you call disruptive technology. And further down in the article is a quote from this man, Chris Pham, who's the head of R&D unit at GlaxoSmithKline. If you're not familiar with them, they're the 7th largest pharmaceutical company in the world. And this is what he says about bioelectronics. Instead of drugs, the treatment is a pattern of electric impulses or frequencies. And the article went on to say that Pham believes that bioelectrical implants might someday treat things like hypertension or asthma or diabetes, epilepsy, infertility, obesity, cancer, and the list go on and on and on through every degenerative process that we have to deal with in modern healthcare. Again, this is perspective, guys. I mean, can you imagine the guy that's in charge of R&D at the 7th largest pharmaceutical company said, even saying the words instead of drugs? I mean, I think that's fascinating. Next. But the article went on and talked about some of the challenges, because what we're trying to do is harness the complexity of what the brain does to send messages all over the body through the autonomic nervous system and through the central nervous system. And it says these implanted devices, in other words, they implant them in your head, show great promise, but there's still challenges ahead. First of all, brain signals work in harmony with each other. What does that mean? There's 100 billion neurons firing 24 hours a day, sending out 100 trillion signals to orchestrate adaptation. In other words, whatever's going on with your body, it's always adapting, and the brain is always, sending out information, taking information back. I mean, this is the most complex system, that exists in the world today. It also requires an orchestra of signals firing simultaneously to maintain proper function and balance in multiple metabolic processes. So in other words, not only do they all fire, but they fire in harmony with each other. It's an orchestra. And as this thing starts shifting over here, the rest of the brain analyzes that and shifts with it. So it's always adapting. And that's the complexity of dealing with the brain. And one of the things that these researchers came to the conclusion of is that that's just way too complex. Let's go downstream. Downstream is a nerve called the vagus nerve. And it's the largest nerve in the parasympathetic nervous system. That's that right brain rest, relax, repair modus of the autonomic nervous system. This is what triggers immune response. This is what supports digestion. So they went, wait a minute, if we can go way downstream and trigger the vagus nerve, maybe we'll get energy that would be meaningful. So the vagus nerve is the information superhighway that contains thousands of fibers that send rest, repair, and regeneration signals back and forth from the brain to the organs. It's the main terminal to the brain-gut axis. That's digestion and the hormones that, communicate back and forth through the brain, turn on hunger, turn off hunger, burn fat, burn sugar. All of those things, are influenced through intervention of the vagus nerve. Next. Now, the vagus nerve can be weaker in some people than others just naturally. That's genetics. Some people are born with a stronger parasympathetic, influence, and some people are born with a stronger sympathetic influence. If you're born with a stronger sympathetic, then you tend to be a little weaker just naturally in those rest, repair, and regenerative functions. But in today's world, relentless stress plays the biggest role in altering vagus nerve tone and function. Nothing even close. Every article you read on this says stress is the culprit. And I'm just kind of winding down this article. I just love some of these quotes. This is a guy named Kevin Tracy, and he's a neurosurgeon that is really one of the pioneers of bioelectrics. And he said the vagus nerve is like a computer terminal through which you can deliver commands to stop a problem, like inflammation, before it starts, or repair the body before it gets sick. Now, if you can do that effectively, the rest of his quote is, I think this industry will replace the drug industry. Hey, people, these are people coming out of modern medicine today saying, this is the future. This is where it's all going. If we harness this, game over. This disrupts everything. Next. Still more challenges, though. Unlike drug therapies, these devices sometimes take months to achieve their goals. And that's because the body controls the rate of both detox and system shift so that it helps the body tolerate the changes. In other words, you didn't get where you're at so dysfunctional from a metabolism standpoint overnight. And so for the body to adapt back through proper energy intervention takes time. So don't get in a hurry with this. Let the body do what the body is designed to do in the time frame it's designed to do it. Don't treat this like a drug. Treat it like the intervention of the restoration of the rest of your life. These implanted devices are also expensive and they're not covered by insurance yet. So that's kind of a challenge. Some companies have made external devices that are much less expensive. They don't have all the analytics for trying to determine what the vagus nerve is saying back and forth through the brain. It's just basically a hacking of the vagus nerve. And the problem with that is they typically send isolated signals that are not necessarily in harmony with the management that the brain uses to manage all these functions. So, they're just saying beware. Next. So that brings us to the Bio-Res products. And Dr. Wilson, again, I've spent probably more time on the phone and in person with this guy than I have anybody in the last 20 years, just because I can't get enough of this. I mean, getting my head around this, it just gets bigger and bigger as I do that. Dr. Wilson started a company, a research and development company called Biotransfer Technologies and Processes. And this is what he does. He said, if we're going to influence the whole body, then we need to provide frequencies that exist in nature, in efficacious levels. So the first thing he does is he finds herbs, spices, plants that have what are called resonant energy storehouses. What is resonant energy? Well, resonant energy is in plants at the same frequency that the body sends through the autonomic nervous system. In other words, you can actually support very specific functions. And so just like every plant has its own composition of nutrients. And so you blend different plants together so that you get all the nutrients that are necessary for, the regeneration of healthy cells. Plants have their own composition of frequencies. And actually, we know exactly what they do because of recorded history. If you want something for sleep, just go to your herbal medicine dictionary and look up sleep. And guess what? You'll find 10 or 12 different herbs that support different functions of sleep. Same thing for dealing with stress. Same thing for dealing with just about any organ in the body can be influenced through the resonant energy stores of different herbs. Here's kind of a shocking statistic. In the world that we live in today, 80% of the world still uses herbal medicine as their primary source of healthcare in the world today. 80% of the world's population. Why? Because it works and it's safe, And so what Dr. Wilson did is he recognized that, and he said, how do we improve on what nature has provided? So the next thing he does is he looks for specific functional energies from select global sources. In other words, where is the best kava grown? Where is the best ashwagandha grown? Where is the best green coffee bean grown? Where is the best? And he just looks at all these herbs that he's looking for, and he looks for the best. And he brings those back into his R&D lab, and he starts creating formulas of energies to address specific function and form in human physiology. This is fascinating, guys. So he extracts those, he concentrates those, and then he stabilizes those in water. Why water? Because water has just unlimited capacity for memory. And he can do all of this at efficacious level because he eliminates the limitation of matter. What does that mean? Let's say you wanted to influence all of these pathways of energy with resonant energy from plants. Well, in order to get a holistic effect in the body that's supporting all the functions so you keep in balance, you might have to take 50 to 100 capsules a day. Well, number one, nobody's going to do that. And number two, when you're taking that much herbal preparation, there's a lot of stuff that your body doesn't use. There's a lot of chemicals in there that your body has to find a way to get rid of. You have to detox, which again puts a lot of stress. So imagine if you could take the benefit from thousands of years of experience with these herbs, transfer it into water in efficacious levels, and all of a sudden start restoring function back into the physiological functions of proper metabolism. Guys, that is radical. Maybe you don't understand everything that I'm saying, but hopefully you can hear in my voice, this is crazy, radical good. Next. So here's the big three issues that we're addressing. Number one, the closed loop of stress, which affects sleep patterns, which then manifest into symptoms. And symptoms, the number one comorbidity of weight management, is what we talk about a lot, because if you can get your arms around these three things, I'm telling you folks, you can change the world. Let's just get some perspective on stress, sleep, and weight management and how big of a problem it is. Next. Regardless of age, sex, ethnicity, religion, no one is immune to the burdens of stress. Go ahead, next. The statistics, according to the American Institute of Stress, look like this. Number one, about 33% of the people report feeling extreme stress. In other words, that's 100 million people say they can't hardly live day to day. 70% of the people experience stress that they believe is affecting their physical health. That's 254 million people in this country alone. 73% say that they know that the stress in their body is not only affecting their physical, but also their mental health. Okay, next. What about sleep? Well, according to this survey taken by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, It says 64% of the people in this country have to use some sort of sleep aid in order to get to sleep. And over half of that is either a prescription or over-the-counter drug, which does what? Adds more toxicity, which adds more stress, which keeps you in that loop. And so maybe you gain a little bit of sleep, but at what expense? The expense of keeping your body in that loop that does not allow you to function and leads to symptoms, which leads to poor health. Folks, that is a marketplace. I mean, there are people that are struggling to try to find a good night's sleep, and they're having to take stuff that they don't want to take in order to achieve it. Next. And then finally, again, one of the biggest comorbidities, the biggest comorbidity, which is a symptom of stress and lack of sleep, is, too much weight, the accumulation of fat on the body. It's not normal. The body doesn't want to carry around that much. But look at the statistics. 69% of our population is now overweight or obese, right? 44% of that population based in this country is going to do another diet this year. Another diet. The average woman, I think, according to Dr. Wilson, there's several different, but one of them is 16 diets. It's just crazy how many diets people go on. So the people that diet this year will spend about $200 billion just to get on a food program that basically will take away important nutrients as well as the energy that is necessary to function appropriately. In other words, a lot of them will just starve themselves thin for a while, but 95% of all those dieters will regain the weight back. Why? Because diet is not a calorie issue. It's an energy issue. It's a stress issue. It's a lack of sleep issue. And if you go to the root cause of all of these things, you'll see transformation in people's lives that they never dreamed that they could experience. And so I'm just closing with this slide. This is our energy management system. It starts with relax. That's resonant energy that is specifically designed to give your brain adequate supply of energy, regardless of what state that you might be in right now. In other words, you got to start someplace. You can't force the body to shift on its own, but through the intervention of proper energy, which restores function, the body will start shifting back to normal, back to balance. Then it goes to thermo. Thermo is supporting mainly the parasympathetic side of the autonomic nervous system, all the glands and organs that are necessary to bring balance and function back into metabolic processes. Control hunger, control cravings. One of the things that I noticed when I first sprayed thermo in my mouth is immediately cravings were gone. It's not because I was taking some kind of drug that was blocking a receptor site in my brain. It was because I was providing resonant energy for the first time, opened up a pathway that had become dysfunctional, that caused me to crave sugar, crave carbs. And that just went away almost immediately. And then the last bottle there, of course, was sleep. And sleep is designed to provide resonant energy for all the pathways that are necessary for a good night's sleep. And you put those three together, folks, and you got to give your body time to react to all of this. I think one of the disservices, we were also excited about some of the dynamics we were seeing when people first started taking some of these products. Like I immediately lost cravings. Someone else had the best night of their sleep. And so everybody thought it was going to be instantaneous, responses. And for a lot of people, restoring, those functions is not an overnight. Your body first detoxes. That's its first priority. Sometimes that takes a day, sometimes a week, sometimes several weeks. I had a healthcare provider up in Massachusetts saying, I just stuck with it because I read all this and you're right on. There's nothing like this in the industry. And after about 7 or 8 weeks, she said, I'm sleeping like I've never slept before. But it just took a while to get there. And so this is not an exact science, guys. We make suggestions on the number of sprays, and then we tell you to adjust according to how your body is responding. But Steve and Craig, I'm telling you, there's going to come a day when people say, where did you guys get access to this technology? We already have a group of healthcare professionals that are so far ahead of the curve. They understand energy, and they're going, we've never seen anything like this. And that's coming from people that know what they know. And for the rest of us, this is just like a kid in a candy store. I just can't believe we have both Aceman and Bio-Res to take to the world and change the quality of life and be disruptive to the biggest industry the world has ever seen. That's my story for tonight. I love it. Oh, this is fun. I'm telling you. Well, this has been a project we've been working on for a long time. It's very seldom that you can find